In 1974, under the presidency of Jafar Nimeri, the Sudan government started to make plans for the construction of what would be known as the Jonglei Canal. The government of Sudan stated that agriculture schemes in North Sudan required a surplus of water, plus diverted water from South Sudan was needed to fulfill the water needs of the population in the north as well as in Egypt. Join us as we discuss this and more only on Beyond the Headlines. We are joined on the program by the Vice Chancellor of the University of Juba, Professor John Akec. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Thank you for welcoming me, Eunice. Good to be here.
Thank you. Hydropolitics, also referred to as water politics, has been an ongoing issue between South Sudan and its neighboring countries for over 5 decades. The idea of water diversion from Southern Sudan was first proposed in 1901. Then, on November 8, 1959, Sudan and Egypt signed the Nile Waters Agreement with the exclusion of the input from Southern Sudan. Can you please briefly discuss these historic events?
I have to say, these historical events have been happening on this, while we are actually at the margin. We were part of the Sudan and we were marginalized in Sudan, so we didn't have views. Not only that, what we know about the Nile water is that the 1929 agreement and was actually signed by the British on behalf of the colonies along all the countries in the river, in the Nile basin, including Uganda, and Kenya and South Sudan. So we were not part of this. After that, South Sudan has plenty of water, plenty of land that have not been exploited, and plenty of natural resources that have not been industrialized. But the Sudd has been actually a very important part. Actually, South Sudan exists. The Nuer tribes, the Dinka tribes, the Anuak, the Shuluk, they are there. What they are today, you cannot take Sudd away from them and they still exist. That's what we know. So we are using the eco services that, the Sudd region provide. It is a natural dam. So since time immemorial, our ancestors have been living there and they build their life around that. The idea of Jonglei Canal is actually, according to them, to actually get more water for Sudan and for Egypt, about 10 billion cubic meters of water. And what are their calculations? Their calculations, they estimate that about 10 billion cubic meters is lost to evaporation. They say it is lost. Actually, water goes and come back again. It evaporates and then come back again in terms of rain. So where does it actually rain? The water that evaporates from the Sudd is carried by the northern wind back to western and then Bahr el-Ghazal, western Equatoria, northern Uganda, and part of DRC in Central Africa. Those are the ones that made that region to be green, we call them, because it is raining throughout the year. So the project will actually drain the water from the Sudd. We will not have that evaporation. The Sudd actually will have less water. It will fail to sustain, livelihoods as they are, whether this is fish, whether it is actually pastoral land during the dry season, and so forth. But not only that, it will impact Western Equatoria, Western Bahr el-Ghazal, Northern Uganda, because those places will not be evergreen as before. They will be dry as Eastern Equatoria, which is actually very rich, very few rain than you would have in Western Equatoria and Western Bahr el-Ghazal.
In 1974, the Sudan government had claimed that the Jonglei Canal would benefit Southern Sudan by expanding economic development, increasing of crop production, ensuring the availability of clean drinking water, and prevent floods from ravaging farmlands through the construction of the drainage systems. Were these well-founded claims that were made by the Sudan government?
Those were actually sugarcoating of a very disastrous, project that could actually change the way of life forever. So it was really sugarcoating of a very evil project. It's nothing short of actually declaring war on South Sudan. And SPLA went to war. One of the reasons was the Jonglei Canal. So it was cause of war now, and SPLA stopped it, it stopped the project by force. It was stopped by war. Now, if you are talking about that today, because they claim that you are going to have agricultural lands, we have only 4% of arable lands have been cultivated. So we don't need it, we don't need, to drain the Sudd in order to have agricultural places or generate electricity. We can generate electricity for rivers so much. We can generate electricity from normally, falls. What I was saying there was that the Jonglei Canal, the Nile proposal they were making, is supposed to actually reduce flooding in both areas, and that they would be able to have development projects, agriculture projects, and not only that, 2 million Egyptians were going to be settled along the canal, cultivating it but also protecting it. The canal has a very serious consequence. We're going to divide communities. How do we actually navigate across it? A piece of land, the people were physically united to come and dig a very deep canal between an natural river. That will produce a lot of social problems, dividing families, dividing communities, and also dangers to the animals. So South Sudanese were seen as simpletons, people who are primitive, who do not even know their rights. And that was the attempt by Egypt and Sudan. Not anymore in 21st centuries, not possible. And anybody who would like to do that, let me tell you, those who actually went on demonstration in 74, a lot of them are still alive. And it's something they fought for. Some of my colleagues fell in these wars, but their legacy, what they died for, cannot be lost, in this way. So I think that's what I can say.
Mm-hmm. In the same year, in 1974, the regional government under Abdel Lear, who was the High Executive Council, faced intense criticism for the handling of the Jonglei Canal. As you mentioned, there were riots, and you've also participated in the riots. In the streets of Juba, politicians were ordered not to discuss the issue related to Jonglei Canal, or they will face a serious reprisal. As a young student, you're among, of course, the protesters. Why was it important for you to make your voice heard on this critical issue?
Students are actually, especially those days, were actually nationally conscious. I don't know what is happening these days, but we were national conscious. We know that our country has to have a good future. We know that the future that was in stake is ours, for our fathers, our children, and their children. At that point, in intermediate, I actually understood that. The cases that were made were very clear. I know where Torch is, So if you say you are going to drain it, it really makes sense to me that, what is happening is harmful. So we understood the issues, and that's why we went out, because we know it's something that will actually hurt the future of the country. It's not a small matter.
In April 2011, the Ethiopian government began the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and by May 2013, started to divert water from the Nile River's tributaries. This led to political disagreements over the use of the Nile between Ethiopia and Egypt. Sudan also raised its own concerns related to the use of the Nile River. What impact did the construction of the Ethiopian dam have in fueling the hydropolitics that we currently see within the country?
Absolutely, it has. As Ethiopia, like South Sudan, actually contribute like 85% of the Nile water. The Sudd, I mean, South Sudan actually provides something like only 15% of the Nile water. And you wonder why, but that's to do with the Sudd. For us, Sudd has been a natural dam for us, so it actually sucked that water, and part of it is recycled as rain in the green belt, and then it comes back again. Ethiopia, all the water that of Blue Nile actually left, and some of it comes also from River Sobat. That is also from Ethiopia. So all that water, Ethiopia, the British, according to their calculation, doesn't need it. It can actually use the rain to drink or to cultivate. That was the assumption. Now, with increasing population and industrialization, and the need to have food security, then the government of Ethiopia calculated that it can actually benefit by generating electricity and by using some and storing some of this water to actually do irrigation, and improve agriculture and food security. Now, countries put their national interests first. They are not going to work for interests of Sudan. And you know what? Internationally, the water that is in front of you is yours. Is yours to do with it anything you want. You don't have to pollute it, but you can benefit from it while you consider your neighbor. So Ethiopia felt that they need to benefit from it, and that's what they did. Now, part of the 1959 agreement was that Egypt, anybody who wants to do anything, a dam along the the Nile basin, from Sudan to Burundi to Rwanda, Uganda, and so on, Kenya itself, they need to talk to Egypt. And if Egypt objects, you cannot borrow money from, say, World Bank. World Bank will not give you any money. But Ethiopians were able to actually get money elsewhere, apart from the World Bank. And by the time they announced that there is nothing that Egypt could do, they have a very good governance system. Ethiopia has actually strengthened its civil service. A lot of educated people. They have over 50, public universities. Some of them are doing excellent research in water. They have strengthened their civil service. They have very strong government, that can devise policies that will actually put national interest first. So, So Ethiopia was able to maneuver its way. Egypt couldn't do anything. Anybody who is educated in the world, it doesn't matter. In the world, you have a strong government, you have strong institutions that can articulate your national interest. Another foreign country can do nothing to you. South Sudan need to be the same.
It is important to note that the Sudd wetlands, which is found in South Sudan, is Africa's largest freshwater system and one of the largest in the world at 57,000 kilometers in area. If the resumption of the Jonglei Canal takes place, what environmental impact will it have on the vast wildlife that survive on it, and also the over 1 million South Sudanese who live along the Sudd?
The implications are enormous. For wildlife, it's not only that. The Sudd region is the destination of some migratory rare birds, that come from Asia, some come from Europe, and across there, over certain seasons. So, and then certain wildlife also live in the Sudd, which is some of them actually rare. The Sudd region provide fish, provide pastures, and now it actually sustains the cattle. And the cattle is a means for which, by which actually these cultures have been built. It's used as a currency to pay dowries, to pay compensation, to pay penalties for the Dinka, for the Mers, for the Shuluk, for Anuak. Now, if it get dry, these groups, and I'm sure that more than 1 million, people there, it could almost be like 2 million going to, living depending on the eco services provided by the Sudd region. So that would be immediate loss to us, but it is loss to the international community, I mean to the global environment. Some of these migratory birds will not actually be able to use the place, and some of them may actually extinct. People in Western Equatoria and Western Bargazal and Northern will be impacted. The region will not, they will not actually cultivate several times they do every year. And for that reason, the Sudd region is Ramsar sites by UNESCO. So when you are going to do that project, it's going to create an international uproar. And we know that despite all this, we cannot rely on the international community to do anything, like it happened last time in 74, they went on and they were digging, they ignored them. Now we have South Sudan as a sovereign state. Now our government need to fight for national interest. And the water security, for us now, we have water, we have issues of, lack of policies. We are not even having a lot of water pie. We are not cultivating, but it doesn't mean that they can be taken away, because once we are strong enough, to build our institutions, come with policies of generating electricity, of using the water from the Nile, putting dams along the Nile to cultivate. Egypt will still get water. What is happening is pure greed. They want to be more secure while actually transferring water insecurity and food insecurity to South Sudan.
What do you believe really prompted the government, the South Sudan government, to even talk and bring up the idea to resume the construction of the Jonglei Canal, given that it's a very contentious issue and the project itself has been dormant for over 35 years?
I think that is why when I made a petition, actually one of the items to petition was the issues to do with economic management and good governance. The economic management is very weak at the moment, and we are struggling to pay public sector workers. Pay them living wage is not happening, and delayed salaries is happening. And so if you are not paying civil servants and you are not paying them good wage, to say, a lot of them actually migrate and work in private sector, or they go and work with NGOs. This is what is happening now. Because of the challenges that, poor economic management that we had since, independence, ministries have lacked, budgets that will allow them to actually carry out their mandate. You have Ministry of Agriculture is supposed to actually to improve food security. You have Ministry of Road is supposed to build infrastructure. You have Ministry of Fisheries and Animal Production and Wildlife. Those ones need to get funding to do their work. The Ministry of Electricity and Water, excuse me, should be the one to lead in providing pipe water for us, in providing electricity for us by identifying the good projects that we need, like putting dams on Numili Fall, for example, and so River. So the institutions, our institutions are very weak at the moment because they are understaffed. People are underpaid. Nobody is staying there, and those who are staying there are not committed. They are trying to survive. So that is one front: economic management, weak institutions, but also the revitalized agreement has brought in new structures. You have what you call clusters under various vice presidents. Within these clusters, there are certain ministries. So what is happening now, I think this idea is not initiated from the parliament, by the cabinet, it's actually from the line ministry, which is water and irrigation. Egyptians had been here. Not only that, Egyptians have been dredging basically they were actually clearing Bahr Ghazal Basin, Ju River and so on. Dredging means you actually deepen it. You take the sun out, take the depth out, so the water can actually move fast. And the river is actually, bed is deeper. When the river is actually deeper, what does it mean? It means water can go. It can actually store a lot of water. The water will not spread around and make ponds. If it is shallow, the water will spread around and then they have ponds. When during the dry season, ponds will still have water. Some pond, big pond actually will have fish, and then your animals and cattle and goats will drink from those ones. But if you are actually have dug this one, it's like fiddling basically with the nature. This is what Egyptians are doing. This is nothing short of still ransacking, people's natural resources. They are using the weaknesses that exist in our institution to just pass their own projects on expense of our own, water security. So I think this project originated within the infrastructure cluster, and it has not been plotted, in the media, and we do not know whether the government has approved it or not. But it is enraging.
Yeah, over a week ago, you went ahead and started a petition under the theme Save Sudd Wetlands, and you're seeking over 100,000 signatures to submit to President Salva Kiir to stop the digging of the Jonglei Canal and dredging of rivers in South Sudan. You also talked about previously how there's a lack of political enlightenment among the youth. Now, how can they be enlightened about the critical issue related to the Jonglei Canal? And why was it important for you to go ahead and initiate this petition? Because there are some people who are stating that the petition alone is not enough to put pressure on the government to reverse the course of the resumption of the Jonglei Canal.
Petition may not be enough alone. However, actually it raises awareness of everybody. It raised awareness of young people. Those who were born in the 80s, 85, 87, a lot of them, are young. In fact, for us here, something like almost like 65 to 70% are actually below 30 years, in South Sudan. And those young people have no idea. Recently, a young lady asked me, said, Vice Chancellor, and she's almost 30, I know nothing about Jonglei Canal. I've never heard about it. I want to be educated before I actually raise a petition. So what happened? The petition had actually woken us up. Not only that, but actually before I made the petition, other colleagues wrote, it's been going on for over a month or even 2 months, and I have not joined the conversation. Now, then I began to read this one. I also began to be, some individuals, colleagues were writing to me, said University of Juba need actually to join, the conversation and the pressure to actually stamp off this project, not to go forward. So people wrote to me privately who are concerned. They say, what is the position of the university? And that issue, for me, something I actually hold dearly, that, and I feel strongly about, resumption of that, because I demonstrated against that. The facts have not changed. Even now, I'm much wiser, much more informed than when I actually demonstrated. So we have this conversation, which is being watched by thousands of people. So we are having, I think information is power. If our people are informed, the government will be forced to take, decision. And I'm sure this project will not go on. So the first thing to do is educate the people first. By that petition, I raised about, been signed by over 3,600 already, 3,600. And those are, those who know how to use the internet, because it's not easy to sign. You must have an internet account. I realize that 100,000 will be a big challenge. And that is like voting on some of us who actually are very good in, can use the ICT tool, because it's not so easy. You have to do that. You have to put in an email account. If you don't have email account, you are challenged. And then you have to go to your email account to confirm, so that, that it is you. And I think, I suspect people are actually facing challenge, but 3,600 is a very respectful number. And that is a voice that people need to know. And a lot of conversations is going on now. And it's not one of them. I will be participating in another for Women Forum, which has been announced, is taking place on the 30th. So we are going to educate ourselves and be informed, because you know what? It's not good actually fighting and even going to sleep and you don't understand the issue. But information is power.
Yes, indeed. Lastly, when Sudan and Egypt signed the Nile Waters Agreement in 1959, South Sudan, of course, was not a sovereign state, but it is now. As South Sudanese, what right do we have over the Nile River, and how do we preserve our water security? Also, how can we secure our rich water reserves for future developmental projects?
Yeah, I think we need to study we need to study all the agreements. You know, there are something like 9 agreements that have been signed about the Nile. We are a member of Nile Basin countries. And South Sudan, actually 90% of the South Sudan is actually on the Nile. You know, part of the Nile, we are actually the longest country that it says on the Nile. You know, now there are international rights. You know, it's a question for us to go down and study where our rights are. We can call experts. We have a lot of South Sudanese who have actually studied water. The managing director of Nile Petroleum is actually a water expert, but he's now selling fuel. You know, Dr. Joel Abel is actually, he did his PhD in water. And you can see the importance we are doing. We are giving more importance to oil than, you know, than water. But water is more important. It is renewable. It is a source of life. We can generate electricity from it. We can cultivate, you know, using water. We drink it to stay alive. So water is extremely important. But it tells you, as a new country, we think that, you know, oil is the most important thing. But no. Now we need to sit down, like University of Juba. We are actually now planning with UNESCO to launch Institute of Water Studies. That is one of the response that science, we need to understand the issues. We are not going to just go to street and shout for something that we do not understand. We must. Having said that, there is a lot of literature. A lot of literature has been done about, you know, Sudd. And of course, there is a consensus that if you do that, you know, also on Jonglei Canal, then you cause damage. So we don't even have to go, you know, further to know that this is not, you know, and it makes great sense. We, as we said, we need to strengthen our institutions, we need to improve our economic management, and we need to get in the business of development, whether it means, you know, how we can actually generate electricity from water we have, and also have a good dialogue with Egypt to respect us, you know, not to just come and pull us around and, you know, by digging its way through, you know, weak systems. I think that is actually radical. And South Sudan is full of a lot of very intelligent people. You know, we are not that, you know, simple, you know, to be taken like that. There's a lot of intelligent people in South Sudan. What we need to do is to mobilize them so that they can actually sit in government institutions and design policies and guide the politicians. The politicians, you know, are opportunistic. They can have their own geopolitical, you know, reasons for this. And I will not go further into that, but you can see and read, people are trying to find alliances, you know, in the region. And alliances built on the expense of the people are actually treason. That's how you put it.
Yes, we've been joined on the program by the Vice Chancellor of the University of Juba, Professor John Akec. Thank you for joining me on the program.
Thank you very much, Eunice, for hosting me. And I thank the audience also.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page at Sunrise Media.